say when it's like whether the physical existence of people or whether it's a philosophy of what they mean or that the sky and the unveiling. It's
Don't
the
take it
same.
too deep.
It's
Let's keep
no,
it
no, but I
let's keep
have
it
to. But I
simple.
have.
Let's
But you
keep
see,
it
I have to
okay.
because you're asking me a question that is not grounded. Do I know who
Okay.
Shango is? There can
No,
also be
no,
like,
no,
okay,
no, no.
Shango.
So
Can I
now
can I just make that point? Can I
Guys,
just make that
please,
Orunmila,
point?
let's one mic,
Can I
guys.
make
One
that
mic.
point, please?
One mic,
Um,
guys. One mic.
Orunmila
Bonka,
is
one mic.
but you took
Bonka,
the
yeah.
mic
wait.
off me, Mr. Bunker. I'm not sure whether you can
Bonka, wait.
actually have the
Femi,
respect to let
please
me
wait.
finish.
Femi,
Okay.
please wait. Bonka, please wait. One mic. Uh,
Yes.
Bonka, wait. Bonka, wait. Bonka, if you ask Femi a question, let him answer before you jump in again.
Okay, when I ask the question, I don't want a story. I just want a one answer because I don't
No,
want
I'm
this
not
to
a Mr. Bunker.
degenerate.
I'm not Mr. Bunker. I'm not a
Yeah.
child. Do I know who God is? 1,000 people can give you different answers to what God is.
Okay,
Do I know
Okay,
Femi,
who
please
are
go
you
Shango
are
ahead.
is?
you are you here to have a conversation or you're here to
But
argue?
no, but
Because
not at all. You're missing the point.
I'm
You're
trying
missing
to
my point, Mr.
I'm trying to
Bunker.
give. Okay,
Bonka, wait.
I'm done with
Bonka,
you.
wait.
I'm done with you. I'm done.
Bonka,
I'm done.
wait.
I'm done.
Bonka, wait.
Yeah.
Bonka,
Mr.
wait. Please. Bonka, wait. Mr. Femi, do you want to answer the question?
Do I know what Orumila is? Yes, I do know who Orumila is.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Please mute your
But
mic.
but
Please mute your mic, please.
Okay, so
Please. All right.
I appreciate people who come with an intention to have a curiosity, but I think Mr. Femi is coming here to disrupt, and I don't
You
appreciate
don't
that.
you
I
don't know
actually
that.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
You
no.
don't know that. Bonka, wait.
Okay, hold on.
Please. Please wait.
The question was simple, and I was trying to get to somewhere. And now he is taking it as a mockery, as if I'm trying to make him look stupid. Now I'm talking
Bunker,
of
you misunderstood my intentions totally. I don't think
okay. Now
you can have the
Orunmila,
authority of my
I
intentions.
don't look at Orunmila from this deep spiritual donation. I want us to keep it simple. Orunmila to Yoruba people is what Socrates is to the Greeks, is what Plato is to the Greeks. So if the Greeks can be Christians today and they don't have a problem with reading Socrates, they don't have a problem with reading Plato, they don't have a problem with reading Aristotle, who are the fathers of their philosophy, who are the people who gave them the foundation of the democracy they built on. What would be the problem in looking at what Orunmila did? Because most of the earlier governments that we built in all of Yoruba land had things to do with things that Orunmila said. Now, everything that Orunmila said, if we decide to use it to build a constitution, to build a nation, how does it contradict Christianity or Islam? So
Are you asking the question or you're continuing to speak, Mr. Bunker?
wow. Okay. So the
You
answer
can't take a
is
mic off somebody when I was trying to make a point. Then you now, ask questions but
Okay,
okay.
answer your own
Femi,
You know what?
questions,
Femi,
I'm going to
you
let
know
you
which is
what?
finish.
quite
I'm
unfair
going to
once
let you
again, Mr.
finish.
Bunker.
I'm going to step down and let you finish.
This is so inappropriate. Mr. Femi, with due respect to you, I don't think you have a contrary opinion to Yoruba nation, but it doesn't matter what I think. But at the same time, this room is usually, if we request anything at all, is that you be respectful. And I don't like the tone in which you have been addressing the man that has spent all his time to look for things to come and educate people here.
I appreciate Mr. Bunker. I think you would have heard
Go
me saying
straight
about I
to
appreciate
your
the story
go
about
straight to your
Cuckoo,
question.
about Philip
Listen to
Potter,
me.
and all
Listen to
this kind
me.
of stuff. I
Listen
agree
to
you're
me.
disappointing,
Listen to me.
I'm not going to
Listen to
listen to
me.
you. Mr. Bama,
Okay,
I appreciate
that's
your
fine.
room, but I can't
That's
debate
Please
fine.
you.
drop him down. Drop
Okay, if
him
you're not
down.
gonna respect people, then
Yeah.
you would
Yes,
leave.
then
Bami,
yeah.
Yeah.
Bami, move this
No,
guy down, please. Move this
I'm
guy
not
And,
gonna
down.
and
listen.
Guys, please, one mic.
the sad thing is
Please.
that he
Bonka,
actually
wait.
said he's a descendant of an Awi.
Guys, please wait. When we have multiple people speaking at the same time, it doesn't make any sense. Please, we really need to understand this. Once another person is speaking, just wait. Just wait. There is no point on muting and trying to speak at the same time. Please, please, let's maintain civility. Bonka, please go on.
Well, I always find this very sad. and someone comes and introduces himself as a descendant of an Awujale. And then at the same time, you're arguing that it's not a good idea to champion a cause that will actually embrace what our ancestors believed in. So our spirituality is not a religion. It's a lifestyle. And when I started, I said something. I said our spirituality to fit into modern times. There was something very ingenious that Ajayi Crowther did. He made a big mistake. And one of these mistakes is what we were going through. When he started his Christian mission, he started it with an intention to make our traditional beliefs look like they were in contrast to the Bible, contrast to God. And when he realized that he was being used by the British and saw his mistake, he retraced his step and then started seeing how he can bring Christianity and make it on the same par with religion, with our spirituality. That was what brought about cherubim and seraphim. If you look at cherubim and seraphim, it is an aspect of Christianity, but an aspect that respects the Oimbo religion does not believe that people get possessed. It doesn't believe that like Ememe Shunlo, or it doesn't understand our spirituality like that. He did that and then built that up. So I don't see why we should look at our spirituality and think that it happens in contrast to Western philosophies, that it happens in contrast to Christianity or in contrast to Islam. Because our spirituality does not say anything that, in fact, our spirituality is about Iwapele. And so I think they brought a man here yesterday, and he was talking about how our spirituality respects women. You know how it says you should be a good person, how it values good character over sacrifices. So how would that contradict your Christianity or my Islam if that became a Yoruba constitution? That's the point. And
In
I
fact,
dropped the
Mr.
effects.
Bunka, let me just even add. I think the problem is that we just reduce our ancestors or ancestral figures to just these spiritual figures who only dealt with issues of religion, deities, orishas, and all that. They were actually philosophers. In fact, and like you said, in fact, it should not even be considered as a religion or even calling this just a divination system. It minimizes its relevance. The the thing is, the Yorubas have always been philosophers, and even if you look at the etymology of the word philosophy, it's basically love of wisdom. That's literally what it means. It's from philosophia in Greek, right? And it's really about just what the spread of knowledge and wisdom, and that was essentially, like you said, what Orumila was about. He had students the same way Socrates had students, right? He basically propagated wisdom through Ifa, and that was exactly what all these Western philosophers did. They would have students. Socrates had Plato and all that, and they would just spread their knowledge. They didn't write things down too. Socrates didn't really write anything down. It was even Plato that was writing what he had learned from Socrates. And same way people today cannot even point to how Orumila actually looked. Socrates too is someone that nobody can paint a picture of Socrates and say, hey, this was how Socrates was, or this was what he looked like during his days. But people in the Western world revere Socrates. Some consider him to be the father of the philosophy, or Western philosophy, or whatever. So it's just disheartening when we as Yoruba people we do not appreciate the wealth of knowledge, how philosophical we are as humans, even just in our proverbs. Like there's so much knowledge embedded in our proverbial system, and it's just again, it's disheartening that we have been colonized to a point where we see Christianity and Islam as the modern depiction of, or the modern representation of what it means to be spiritual and knowledgeable about things in your cosmos, and then we disregard Ifa, which is actually what makes a Yoruba person a Yoruba person. It is an embodiment of your wisdom and knowledge that was passed down to you by your ancestors, the progenitors of your race.
Can I say something, Adedapo? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, go on.
Yes.
Okay. So, when people are trying to be cute, this is what they do. And it's unfortunate. I'm not sure if that gentleman is still in the room or not, because he mentioned that he's an Ifa initiate. It would have been nice, and I think it's the same question Bonka was asking, that who is Orumila, because I could see where you were going in terms of, it's not about religion, it's about the philosophical aspect of it and the teaching of Ifa. So I don't know his mind, because he said we don't know his mind. I thought that he was trying to go to the question of people are not going to be comfortable anytime they hear Ifa and things like that. And but I thought that Bonka did very good job by saying that if Greeks could be Christians today, and they didn't deny Socrates, then it shouldn't be difficult for Yoruba people as well to do the same
Sorry,
while
sorry,
using.
Obirin. Sorry, Obirin.
Am I
Book,
breaking up?
no, sorry, Bookies. I see you're flashing. Please let Obirin conclude. Then I can come to you. Stop flashing, please. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I see that the bottom line is what Mr. Bonka has said about the fact that the Greeks could use the wisdom of Socrates and still be Christians and whatever religion they had today. So it's not, nobody is trying to force African traditional religion on anybody. We're not proselytizing anything. A lot of us here, we're not even African traditional religion. And maybe if you guys said that, the Yoruba nation nation will be based on Greek ideology, I can bet you that nobody is going to be raising a finger and frowning. It's part of the colonialist mentality, irrespective of how people might say that they understand what it means to be Yoruba. You realize that when you get to some levels, perhaps they don't even understand deeply as you think that they do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bookies, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Bami. Well, the thing is, I've noticed something in this room. When people come and have contrary opinion, people try to shut them down.
Bookie.
Calm
Excuse me.
down, calm
No,
down.
don't say
See,
calm down. You know what the subject
calm
is.
down,
Don't
calm
say
down.
calm down. You listen to me, please. Don't talk
It's the
about
same thing
contrary
you're doing.
opinions. Talk
It's
about
the
your
same thing you're
contributions to
doing.
the topic, please.
It's the
We
same
don't
thing
want
you're
to drag
doing.
on this kind of
It's the
issue.
same thing you're doing.
No,
No,
let's
no, no,
go
no, no,
back
no.
to
You are
the
not going
topic
to
of the
do
day
that.
in
And
Jebu
I'm just
ancestry.
going to sit down and watch you. Please make your contributions. Please, please, in the name of God, make your contributions. If you're not making any contributions that is relevant to the topic that we're addressing today, don't come here to throw a monkey wrench on what we're trying to do. Please. Somebody speaks and suddenly you raise your hands and you want to come speak to exactly what that person spoke about that caused, you know, argument. What's wrong with us? And somebody, talks about that, then you react. Then tomorrow you come back and say, whenever anybody makes any comment that you don't agree with. Why should I agree with what you're saying? That doesn't make any sense.
Do we still have questions about Jebu ancestry and wrong narratives?
Felicia, please go ahead.
Well, many thanks again. Um, well, I would say it this way. As a Yoruba people, one of the things that we are trying to do for ourselves in this modern day is to understand where we are from, especially that I mean, from this room now and here and there, since they have been talking about the history, the past history, it's so clear that majority do not even know anything. And if we look at it, a lot of history will come in around your own, maybe your even your family. Most people don't even know such history do exist. And then we will come in because of our modern day attitude. Our modern day attitude being the fact that we have gone to school. Maybe we are now a big boy, maybe whatever. Arrogancy, attitude, we bring it in. What is difficult in us learning? If we go by what the Baba Hawishe yesterday said, there are so many things, even in the Hifa, that a lot of us, I've read my Bible more than, I can't tell you how many times, but several times. And I'm still reading. And I will still tell you that from what he said yesterday, I can directly quote Bible verse or verses that relate to some of the stuff that he said. One of the things that Jesus Christ himself said directly is said, love your neighbor as yourself. How will you say you want to love God if you don't love your neighbor? So love your neighbor as yourself. He said, if you do this, it is one of the major, out of all the laws, all the 10 commandments, all everything, you have fulfilled the laws. So, my dear people, there are so many proverbs that relate to Onilaja, Oni Kiniko. We cannot be fighting among ourselves. We need to wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ humility, meekness, calmness. Those things are part of the ìlànà Ifá that they spoke about. I am not an Ifa worshipper. I'm not initiated into any of anything. I was born into Christianity. From Christianity, I had been able to learn more part of it. I had, like what they would say, Atumbi, to do that for myself. But having said that, even in the Bible, the John that that Jesus Christ, we call John the Beloved, we say, I write to you, young men. In fact, I write to you, children. He will say, I write to you, young men. I write to you, elders. For by reason of exercise, you have used your, the senses. They have exercised their brain to the point that they understand things. What is difficult for us when you are Yoruba? We all know that being a Yoruba is not just because you are Yoruba, because you are born, okay, I'm Yoruba, or people that do not know where they are from. You will see a lot of them in Lagos. Oh, they said I'm from Igboho. They said I'm from, one person even said Ejigbo. Someone said, that Ejigbo by Egbe. I said, are you out of your senses? Is that it? Ejigbo in that place. You don't know the Ejigbo. That means if you don't know Ejigbo, you don't know Ikirun, you don't know, I said there is a problem. So these things that we are talking about, or that they are trying to teach us, is to let us know what has happened, what people presently are doing. These are the people that sold towns. to so-called colonial masters. And we're still in that, we're still under that colonization up to now. A whole, like I said the other time, a whole Ekpe is an Ijebu people, but is under Lagos State. Nobody ever questioned that. Ikorodu is an Ijebu or Remo mixture and is under Lagos State. And then nobody, nobody will, who knows whether people that are hearing some of these few things that they are teaching us are the one that is going to be our saviors. So please, let us stop this attitude. Our own is to learn. Our own is to be able to know what next to do. And our own is to know the next step. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí Ọlọ́run, ẹ jẹ́ ká gbára wa ní ìyànjú. Bó ṣe ń bá wa sọ, if you don't know anything, ask questions. Are you sure that I know a lot of people know a lot of things? You would think that they are the only one. No, but a lot of people know. They may keep quiet. Some people would back them up. But you have to take, these people have spent time, years, traveling here and there, journey. And now we will now come in to be just 5 minutes because you can speak too much English. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí Ọlọ́run, that is not why we are here. If we want to get anything, like I said yesterday, Yoruba nation is not, because I know everybody is trying to say, they fear. Yes, that maybe they will go on Ifa way because we are Yoruba, Ifa. Why? What stops the Yoruba owns the Ifa? Let's take it that way. But Yoruba nation will be secular nation. We already know that a lot of people are Muslims. We already know people are Christians. And if you hear the story, okay, now they are talking about Ijebu, a whole Balogun Kuku. He embraced Muslim, Islam. He hold everything. There are still loads of them till tomorrow in that Ijebu. I'm very close to them, especially to the Kuku. I know the house. I know everything about them. I know the grandchildren. I know the great grandchildren. I know the great grandchildren. So the history is very direct. Some of them have embraced Christianity. So if we're going to get a nation, leave that matter. There have been people, even if I had even have said, go and become Islam to a whole Baale Ibadan, who happened to be Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ nítorí Ọlọ́run, ẹ má jẹ́ kí a gba ká gba ìyànkíyàn láàyè. Nǹkan tá à ń kọ́ ni pé bí wọ́n ṣe ń sọ yìí, ẹ jẹ́ kó mọ́ wa nínú. Now, secular nation, why are we living where we are coming from? Because they could not adopt that secular nation. Especially, I kept saying it, constitution that says section 10 of the 1999 as amended says you cannot uphold a single a religion, and that is what is going on at the moment. So please, don't be afraid. If they have done it before,
Yeah.
and I said it yesterday. So
Right.
thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. So who wants to go next?
Yeah, and we're sticking to the topic, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please let's stick to the topic.
So even before we go, let me say something quick. One or two things. Um, if Jesus in the Bible made it clear to people that listen, If the Romans, if Caesar tells you to do something, do it. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Jesus, the face of Christianity, has never taught people to rebel against leadership, even though Caesar was a pagan at that time. So there are many religions, and we're saying tap into the wisdom of someone. The man that built Yoruba nation, Awolowo, you may not know it, but he consulted Ifa many times before he made a lot of decisions. But I'm not going to go deep into that. But nobody here can sit down and tell me Awolowo was not a great Yoruba leader. You know, he even got to a point he was told while consulting that he needs to do something about Aole course. And he went in and did what he needed to do. But he didn't come out there and say you can't be a Christian, you can't be a Muslim. Nobody can say, in fact, I think after they took away Akintola, the man that replaced him was a Muslim. I think his name was Adigbunro. One of his biggest lieutenants in Lagos was a Muslim. That was never an issue. That has never been an issue. So let's not make things that is not issues and turn them into issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going around the room to see whoever is flashing their mics. If you've got questions or contributions regarding the topic, my brother Lumide, my brother Yilara, who else?
Why are the ladies not talking today?
My brother Dakpo Sanwo. Uh, let's go with those three first. Then I can help Mr. Bonka to ask some ladies to speak after those guys. My brother Lumide, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Bunker, thank you for another evening of history. Um, before I talk about Ijebu, I just want some of us, because I just need to say this, because I had a conversation with somebody today, and something like that came up. There's a big misconception about the self-determination of the Yoruba nation with Ifa worship, and it's completely wrong. That's not the reason behind the Yoruba nation. The Yoruba nation is a self-determination movement for the actualization of the Omokaro Jire nation as a people. And it has nothing to do with Ifa worship. I was telling somebody today that in the world right now, in the whole world right now, there are about over 7,000 languages. And I asked the person, which language do you think God is God's language? And he kept quiet. I said, God's language is the 7,000 languages being spoken all over the world. So if you are speaking in Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, whatever language you are speaking, God hears. What am I trying to say? Don't put God in a box. God is sovereign. And if you don't understand that, just leave it at that. Yoruba people are very spiritual people. And I got to know that by my dealings with other tribes and ethnic groups across the African continent. Most of my business was within Africa, so I go around Africa a lot, and I've gone to most African countries. I've dealt with most Africans, most different tribes from different countries, and I noticed there's something peculiar about us as Yoruba people. There is a we I don't know how to put it, but there is a spirituality we understand. We have a more understanding about spirituality and how it relates with our environment than most tribes I've dealt with on the continent. And I've kept on asking myself why this is so, because when you listen to other people talk, by the time you hear a Yoruba person speaks, and I'm talking about across different issues, especially when it comes to issues of relations between human relations and a relationship with nature. I found out that the perspective of the Yoruba people, especially the way they express themselves, is quite different. That is my own observation, and I don't know whether anybody here has maybe observed that. The issue of the Ijebu, and Mr. Bunka, I want you to answer this for me. Because I remember when I was asking my father about, because I'm from Ijebubo, and asking my dad about the history of Ijebubo. And what he told me, which he said was what he heard from his mother, was Ijebubo was a senior brother to whoever was Oba in Ijebuode, and there was a conflict, and he didn't want to tussle, he didn't want to be involved in a tussle with his younger brother,
That's true.
and he now went into the forest. He went deep into the forest and started a new community, and that's what became Ijebubo. And that is why, unfortunately, we don't have an Oba now. We've not had an Oba for almost 30 years. And that was why, till the last Oba that we had, the Orimolusi never bows to the Awujale. He sees the Awujale as his equal. I want you to expatiate on this, because that's my own, the history perspective I got from my home parents. And is this the same as what you research? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bonka, do you want to take that first before we go?
Yes, to
Okay.
an extent, she was right. There was a king that was supposed to be the next Awujale. He was tricked out of the city, and then the brother took the throne, and then he wasn't going to let him come back in. And he went out there and did the very peaceful thing rather than get angry. He set up a new, like a sister kingdom. Yes, it's true, but I didn't know that this happened many centuries back. So I didn't know that the resentment kind of exists till today in some kind of politics.
Yes,
That's, that's
it does. It does. And the reason why I'm saying it now, because anybody who is from Ijebubo here or from Ijebode will attest to that. Because we've not had an Orimolusi for almost 30 years now. The case is now in Supreme Court. Some royal families are fighting, and they've been fighting for almost 30 years. People have died. And all of them who are fighting are in their 80s and 90s now. So we are just praying that all of them will die, so that a breath of fresh air will come in, so that we can have an Oba. But what I'm trying to say is this: because of the fact that there is no Oba in Ijebubo, the Awujale decided to be crowning different regions in Ijebubo as Obas. So now in Ijebubo has about 4 or 5 regions, and they all go to Ijebuode to go and collect their crown, which never existed before. And that is the main problem now that Ijebubo is having in having an Oba, because now you now have a town that has 5 Obas. They will never want an Orimolusi to emerge, because the 5 regions that make up Ijebubo now has now gone to Ijebuode to go and collect crown to be Obas, and they are now being addressed as Obas. So that is why there is a lot of resentment now from Ijebubo people against the supposed superiority of the Awujale. And because we see the Awujale as a brother, not as somebody superior to us, to the Orimolusi.
Can I add to that?
Please go ahead.
All right. So when I started talking about, I believe it was Olatu that also chimed in here. I did say there are two versions of the history of Ijebu, but the latter version is the popular one, which is the one that um, you've also sort of alluded to, and that one is about how Onoyelu was actually a prince in Ijebu. Now his brother, I believe, was known as Oshi or Oshi. Um, then acceded to the throne in the absence of Onoyelu. And out of anger, he then left Ijebu and came to Ijebu to settle and founded the town um, in annoyance with his friends and family. Sorry, with his friends and followers. Um, then there is also the fact that Ijebu. So there was. So what happened was when I believe it was Oba Adetayo that was actually the last one that was the king, or perhaps the Oba of Ijebu. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was in 1994, right, Mr. Olumide?
We've not had an Oba for almost 30 years now.
Okay, but Oba Adetayo was what? What was he? Was he a regent, or was he one of the Obas of the other towns that make up Ijebu? Because I know there was an Oba Adetayo who was seen as the last monarch.
No, I don't think. I think the last monarch, the Orimolusi, was Adeboye, who died in a plane crash. Oba Adeboye was the last Orimolusi who died in a plane crash.
Okay. Mr. Didapo, please go ahead.
Yeah, so yes, I believe there has been that international rivalry between the families who, like you said, have contested for the throne of Urimolusi. So now what happened was, there are many towns there are about 5, 6 towns, like you said, that make up Ijebu, okay, Shokmi, Ojowo, um, Jakbara, Okeagbo, I believe.
Okay,
Um,
I go.
Okeagbo, sorry, Okeagbo. And then Atikori. Is it Atikori or Atikori?
Atikori.
Atikori, yeah. And so see that's the places that you now have the Awujale with his influence, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So I think that has definitely created that divide that you've seen. So in terms of the history, like I said, the popularly accepted one is that part that says that Onoyelu Onoyelu came from Ijebu and then settled in Ijebu. But the other version is the one about Orimolusi himself being a hunter who met another hunter from Imushin called Elegi, and then they together settled in an area that then became Ijebu. So I think those are the two versions that exist. But the popular one is definitely the last one. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My brother Ilara, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. All the moderators, the speakers, Mr. Bonka, Mr. Didapo, everybody that has spoken, thank you very much. I just want to say that um, a lot of people might be having a wrong notion about all this thing, but just as Mr. Adefonshaw said, I think it is for us to learn. But my concern and my worries are the people that take religion to extreme. You see them coming, and when they are quiet and they start raising up hand to speak, most cases, to raise a notion to speak, maybe not in support, against in most cases. I just want us to be careful with them because most of them will still go ahead and cause further division. But one thing that is certain is you will find things like this with people that have originally opposed Yoruba nation. And part of the reason why they oppose Yoruba nation has to do with their own religious mentality or sentiment with a particular area, maybe that they came from. So, talking about Ifa or no Ifa, before Jesus Christ, we have a traditional worshippers. And that's a fact nobody can deny. So if I'm in a garden and they are talking about Ifa, it doesn't move me from here to there. The only thing is I want to learn and I try to start bringing my own biblical knowledge into place to see how most of the things they say, how is it relevant? The king that actually told the Israelites to go back and build the Jerusalem wall, it's not even a Christian, Cyrus. And Cyrus happens to be the son of Esther. Esther in the Bible came from
He was
Iran.
a Zoroaster.
Yeah, Bible, the way they pronounce the Bible, they call it Cyrus. Say Syrus. Is
No,
a son.
I was talking about his religion. His religion was Zoroastrianism.
Okay. Is a son of Esther. All Christians we value, we respect, we love Esther, especially what Esther stands for in the Bible. But it's amazing to me to now find out that Esther came from Iran. Then any Christian will say that Iran and Iraq are Islamic country. So how do you explain the fact that Esther came from Iran? How do you explain that Mordecai, all of them have this Iran talking? Me, I think I respect the time these people, Bunker and Co, put into this and to be able to dig deep and start coming to tell us. Then rather for me to start saying, are they here to convert me? Do they want to convert Yoruba nation to come on? I think we should just sit down and learn. If you know what you believe, nobody has ever come here to say that, okay, before we start, we want you to listen, you can turn to Ifa priest or whatever. No, you learn. Just as I think Kadefon Shaw said, there are some things they will tell you as Ifa said. I'm telling you, you will find them in the Bible. And that is not to say that I don't know what I'm talking, or I don't know who I am, or I don't know who I believe. No. We learn, we the more you know, it even helps you better in your own religion. So just want everybody to be a bit receptive to whatever we are saying under this Yoruba nation, rather than just coming and be looking for loopholes. As regard what happens to Femi, I think after this meeting, I will appreciate if I and Braba, Mr. Dave Kola, Mr. Bunker could talk. Let's just discuss some things. So that's just my own observation. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Mr.
Uh,
Bami. Let me just quickly ask Mr. Olumide. Mr. Olumide, I just checked now, and it says there that the last Orimo Lucy of Ijebu Igbo was Obasami Adetayo, and he died on the 28th of May 1994. So I think is does that align with what you have in terms of
Um,
information?
let me fast check that and get back to you.
Okay, because I'm actually reading it here in a Punch newspaper. That paper was actually discussing how the palace of Urimolusi has
Okay.
decayed for 24 years.
Yeah,
Is that so?
I think it's possible. Yeah, it is. It's possible.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
thank you so much. My brother Dakpo, please go ahead. Dakpo Sonwo.
Okay. I just want to greet everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. God bless Dr. Adedapo Ola, Dr. Ola, Dr. Gonka. Thank you so much. As I don't know, I've learned so much. Number one, number two, I don't blame. I completely agree with you guys, but I think that the biggest challenge is not might not even be religion, might also be a little bit of the way the Europeans have successfully portrayed their people and the way we Africans through Nollywood have successfully portrayed or have unsuccessfully portrayed our people. For instance, if I say Odin, Thor, Merlin, the Amazonian or the Amazonian Queen or the Wonder Woman, Apollo, Poseidon, Zeus, Anubis, Ra, Loki, everybody's excited. You're thinking Marvel movies, comics, DC and all that. I mean, you're thinking of Thor and all the magic. But if I say Shango or Ifa, everybody starts to enter into their shell. And that's because over the last few years, Yoruba movies or Nollywood, whatever, they've really done a good job of messing up our history. So Adedapo, Doctor, and Dr. Bonka, I beg you in the name of God, please, this is part one of your work. Part two of your work is to make sure that you help us through the instruments of movies and series, change those narrations so that our children will not be as scared of those things as we are, because I believe that one. Then, two, I just want to tell the rest of the people that are listening about the Yorubas have always been liberal, even under severe constraints and constitutions and laws that make it difficult for people to practice and to be expressing themselves. We still continue to express ourselves. And I'll say it today, one of the most successful MCs, Master of Ceremony for the last decade, his name is Femi Edu, or as popularly called Derinle. He's a Yoruba man. He has his little peculiarities, the way he likes to dress and everything. And the Yorubas have been receptive to him. He has made a success of his business. What about the one that is very popular on social media, the one they call the young person who identifies as a female, but his name is Idris Okuneye. He's a Yoruba man. But everybody now knows Bobrisky. Some don't like him, some find him funny. But the Yorubas have not, even despite the fact that there is a law that if you do something, Kinikon, they will kill you or they will arrest you. Yorubas have not done anything to him. In fact, he goes to our mosque. That's to tell you how receptive we are. So, and of course, there's one young Yoruba, intelligent, great mind that sold his business for $200 million just last year. It was the talk of town. Everybody from presidency to even for even senator, everybody wanted to take a picture with him, right? He also likes to dress like wear a skirt, wear makeup, and do all sorts of little things that you would think that because of those things they are going to kill him. But guess what? The Yorubas accept him. We don't have problems with people. We are very open people. So don't let people try and cage that the Yoruba nation is now all of a sudden going to change even things that colonialism couldn't change, even things that Sharia law and intense attempts to Islamize the nation couldn't change. We're a secular state. We've always been welcoming. And by the time you learn more about our history, you realize just how welcoming we are. Nobody's trying to make this an Islamic state or a Christian state. No. And that's one of the tactics of warfare that they are going to deploy against us. So we need to be smarter than that. We need to see it coming. Those from the other side who don't want our actualization are going to weaponize religion like they've done in times of our fathers and our forefathers, and they're going to try and use it to divide us. They're going to look for every opportunity to say, see, the people that went to protest for Yoruba nation, they are all dressed like Ifa, they are going to do this, they are going to, it's a lie. It's just grand gesture to just frustrate plans. So like I said, please, the same way you see Ra, Loki, Thor, Odin, all those Greek gods, same way you should see. If you are not scared of those people, in fact, I think I'm the only one I can say confidently that I watched season 1 to maybe 7 of Vikings without losing sleep. I enjoyed every bit of the culture, the tradition they portrayed of their people, and I was not for 1 minute afraid. So also is our religion, is our culture. It's very rich, and it's just a shame that a lot of should I say, it has been properly misconstrued as something wicked and dark and evil. But I know that eventually it will be cleaned up, just like we are trying to do tonight. I just want to appreciate the moderators. You are doing a fantastic and difficult job. I can't continue. I'll just pray for you every day, Doctor. Thank you so much for the quality of content you give to us, the precision of your research, your ability to remember things that you've spent your whole life, studying. May God continue to bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Bami. Give me a second. And I wanted to say something. And see, there's a difference between looking for wisdom. One thing we know in Yoruba nation is that we want to build a new nation that is fair to all. And the position that I have is that we can use a lot of knowledge of Ifa to do that. But if someone else feels like, oh, no, 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 this is something better, of course, it will be on the table. You look at what the Ifa says about being nice to your neighbor. If somebody else comes and says, listen, this is how Ifa says it, but this is a better way to be nice to your neighbor, fine, it's going to be embraced. But the real picture is that we want a fair society. So if it comes from Ifa, then respect that. If it comes from somewhere else, accept it as well. But I don't know why we are trying. I think people are deliberately trying to use this to make trouble where there is none. That's how I see it, because nobody is saying it's going to be imposed on people. It's just a way to get a fair law to run a nation. It's not supposed to address your personal life, how you choose to eat, how you choose to relate with your wife. That's not what it's saying. That's not what the topic is about at all. Look at a Catholic person. A Catholic person will never join in the Ocean Festival. But if I tell you, go online and Google it now. Osho is a patron saint in the Catholic Church. Osho is recognized in the Catholic Church as a patron saint. The same way Peter, the same way Paul, the same way, and now a Catholic in Cuba bows to Osho in front of the central cathedral there. She is known as the Lady Mother of Charity that watches over all of Cuba. So now, because the white man has packaged that, it's acceptable. But us, that the religion came from, you won't join them in the Aruba festival. This is the problem of a colonial mindset that needs to go. If it's not packaged by a white man, it's not right to some people. And that's a very unfortunate situation. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can I talk, Mr. Bami, after you?
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Oberin, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Honestly speaking, if I wanted to speak um, the way I feel, I think that it's going to come out wrong, no matter how much I try to. Uh, I don't understand why people will come in here and try to pick a fight or try to cause, to disrupt pretty much. Anybody that is brought up well, as they would say in Yoruba language, when somebody else is speaking, if he goes into an argument, you should be calm and try to listen to them. But then when you don't listen and then you're struggling with everybody just to get your point across, first of all, your point is lost. And most of the time, the people that tend to do this, these are people that has some kind of, first of all, they don't like the concept of Yoruba nation, which is okay. I don't expect that all Yoruba people will ever like the concept of Yoruba nation. I work with a lot of people from Pakistan. Some of them to today, they are not happy that they are Pakistan. They would rather stay with India. So nobody is expecting all of you, every single soul, to accept it. That you don't need to. But don't come in and try to disrupt or try to be like you're smarter than everybody else. Because guess what? You're not. You're
Because
not.
you are speaking phonetics.
Exactly. You're just one person in the middle of so many people. And it's okay if you differ. But what point is it? Especially when somebody come in and say, oh, be argumentative, and you call yourself a Yoruba person. Where is your concept of Omoluabi and Iwapele? Where is your concept of Ribo of Agba? For God's sake, it's totally insane. It's totally insane and it's totally unnecessary. You can paint Yoruba nation Ifa worshiper. That is fine. That is your own interpretation. That is not going to stop anything. If something is destined by God to happen, it will happen. It doesn't matter what people say. So I'm tired of people coming here and trying to make us look like, oh, we are very argumentative. We don't listen to opposing opinion. That is not true. We listen to opposing opinion all the time. What we don't listen to is people who come in and try to tell us that we're not thinking right. We should take their own position. That is what we don't listen to. Nobody will ever listen to that. Anybody with dignity will never listen to that. That is how we got here in the first place. I don't care about people that wanted to say all the people behind Yoruba Nation, because there is nothing you can say to convince them. This is the decision they made themselves. This is what they tell themselves. And that's what they're going to believe. They're not different from people who are calling themselves Israelites and they're black. So I wouldn't even waste my energy on them. I wouldn't. But what I won't stand for is for people to come here and insult people who are spending their time. Time is money. If I spend 1 hour on here, I could be losing over $1,000 within that 1 hour. And I'm not saying it to boast. This is real fact. You can come, you can disagree. That is totally fine. That is why I love being a Yoruba person. Because guess what? We never agree to one thing. And that is how you can be the best. You don't get better by agreeing to one thing. If you don't want Ifa philosophy as a foundation of Yoruba nation, fine. Stay in Nigeria, where you're going to be dominated by the Arabic identity, which is what is already sweeping through Nigeria. That is what you will rather be. Then be it. Be it. Please. I'm sorry to digress. My question for Banka, I know you guys mentioned it, was about Jebu Jesha, but I'm still not clear about that. Please, if you can just take a couple of minutes to just explain that to me a little bit, please, I will appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Obere. Adidapo Bonka, do you want to take that, please?
I think I would like to elaborate on the Ijebu Igbo because I think Mr. Olumide said something. I guess I missed it, but I think I need to address it again. But I'll let Mr. Bonka address the Ijebu Ife one, then I'll address the Ijebu Igbo one.
Now, Obere is talking about Ijebu Jesha.
Oh, sorry, Ijebu Ijesha. Yeah, I'll let Mr. Bonka handle that.
Bonka, are you there?
Yes, I don't have signal now, but I'll come to it. I'm walking to a signal. Yeah.
All right. While we wait for Bonka, Adidapo, do you want to move forward with Ijebu Igbo?
Yes, I would love to. So, the thing is, when the British came, they adopted indirect rule in Nigeria, South and Northern Protectorate. And one of the things they did was to ensure that they governed and ruled through the local leaders. So they went to places like, Oyo, Ijebu, and all those places, and elevated certain local heads to the position of our political administrative units. And what then the consequence of that was a situation where you had several towns who were now trying to make a claim for their for the recognition of their authority. So you would have a situation where the Bale of a town would then want to be seen as a king instead. Or you would have a situation where, even in Igbo land, we had warrant chiefs who began to play the role of, kings and Izis and all that in certain places. So, according to, I believe, Ekpega, Oelega, Ekpega Oelega, I can't remember the name of it. Who was
Epega.
Ekpega, who was a historian. Um, so the the account says that the Awujale of Ijebuland during the reign of Belebua, the first one, and I believe the reign between 1933 and 1959, he actually was the one that started crowning the Orimolusi um, after that. This was in 1950. After the Orimolusi and the one in Agoiwe and the Oloko of Ijebu-Mushin were elevated to be seen as crown heads, and in 1950, the Belebua actually acceded to the request of Orimolusi and granted him permission to wear the beaded crown in 1950. And in fact, Chief Odutola was actually the one that presided over the ceremony. And this Chief Odutola, that was the richest person then, was the same one that presided over the ceremony in Ijebu, who presented the crown jewel to Orimolusi Adiboye. And that somehow became subsequently, of course, up until when Aditayo then died, and then since then you've not had any Orimolusi. So the point is, if we can say that there are stories that were basically concocted to elevate the status of certain heads of a town or village so as to make a claim for their political authority. And from all indications and accounts, Agoiwe, Jebu-Igbo were actually elevated to that point. They weren't always like that before. And again, like I said, there is in an account that Ogbelebua actually crowned Orimolusi in 1950, supervised by Udutola. Then there is actually an article written by an expert. His name is Tunde Oduwobi. So he wrote about this particular story, this account, um, oral historical traditions and political integration in Ijebu. That's the title of the paper he wrote in the Journal of History in Africa in 2000, volume 27. And so I'll try and read it out so that maybe that could provide further validity to what I'm saying. So he did say that, sorry, it's a bit. Mr. Bami, you can go ahead. Let me try and make sure the thing is clear for me to read, so that I don't. Then I'll read it out much later.
All right, thank you so much. Bonk, are you available now? Or do we have anyone else with questions or comments?
Yeah,
Dotun, please go ahead.
yeah. Good evening. Good evening. Good morning, everyone. Um, so I just want to ask. My name is Dotsun, and I just want to ask a question. I'm a Jabunimi. So mo fẹ́ mọ̀, bóyá Mr. Bonka ó lè help me pẹ̀lú question yìí. Mo fẹ́ mọ̀ bóyá mo gbọ́ ni mi mọ̀ bóyá òótọ́ ni. Wọ́n ní Ìjẹ̀bú pé they are from Sudan, like we are from Sudan. I don't know how true, mo kàn ń béèrè ni. They want to sọ pé mo gbọ́ ni pé Awùjalẹ̀ of Ìjẹ̀búland pé ó fẹ́ two cousins like àwọn ìyàwó. So mo fẹ́ ní kí n béèrè pé ṣé lóòótọ́ ni àbí tí Mr. Bonka tó bá lè help láti just to talk about this.
Okay, what you available by? Sorry, yeah.
So that's question mi nìyẹn.
All right.
Ẹ̀gbọ́n mi,
Yes, we
okay,
can hear you. Ṣé gbọ́ ìbéèrè tarákùnrin yẹn béèrè?
kí ni ìbéèrè tán béèrè?
Alright, mo máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ again. Mo ní pé Ìjẹ̀bú ni mí. So and there was a time tí mo gbé ń Ìjẹ̀bú for a very short, like 1 year nígbà kan. So mo gbọ́ pé wọ́n ní Ìjẹ̀bú people are from Sudan. Mo mọ̀ bóyá òótọ́ ni, mo kàn fẹ́ kẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ ló bóyá ló kẹ́kọ̀ọ́
Mo rò kán
mẹ́nu
ti
bà.
dáhùn kínní yẹn níbí lẹ́nìí, àbí Mr. Bami, right?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, a ti dáhùn ẹ̀ lẹ́yìn.
ẹ má
Mm.
bínú sá mi
So
ìdẹ̀ṣẹ̀ join kò tí ì pẹ́ tí mo join, ẹ má bínú.
it was more of a political. It was more of a political thing. Awujale kan bínú ni, and he decided to throw what I would call a jab. But even in his heart of hearts, he knows that that is not true. And I think Mr. Adedako did justice to that by talking about the Wadai he was talking about. And Abi, Mr. Adedako,
Yes, I did. I did. I
yes,
I addressed it.
you want to summarize it again quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, the Ijebu people did not come from Sudan. The place you said we came from, which is Wadai, existed several centuries after people were already living in Ijebu today, and even in Yoruba land. And even if we were to look at the Wada itself, it was a place that was actually created and founded by Arabs from the Middle East, and these Arabs um, were Muslims. So, if we were to consider those two elements, we cannot say that the Jebus have anything in common with Arabs, or even were maybe practicing Muslims before they came to, because that would have been the case if they truly were from that place. There's no way you migrate from your ancestral homeland to another place and you won't take your culture or some cultural elements with you. But that's not the case. And if we were to also look at all the material and immaterial aspects of the Jebu culture. I mean, we can see the influences of the Oyo, the Ife, and even the Benin there, in terms of the Oshugbo and the Ogboni. So the Oshugbo is the one in Ijebu, the Ogboni is the one in Oyo and Ife, and same thing with the Uzama in Benin. Then, if you look at even some of the ways the ways the chants that they make, like the Oshugbo when they greet and all that, there is also that reference to Ife, right, in that chant. And then we also look at some of even the names that we bear. They are strictly Yoruba names. I'm Adebajo, right? My family name used to be um, Odunton and Adebajo, Shiberu. Like, these are names that if you go to Ondo State or your state, you still find people bearing Ade or Moye or something like that. Then, if, in fact, in terms of other aspects of our culture, whether it's food, whether it's even language, and I even forgot to say this. So the same king, the same Awujale that was saying this, is Oriki. It's literally written in standard Yoruba and mixed with Jebu, not in a foreign language, right? So if his Oriki is in Yoruba, then why is he claiming that he's from Sudan? And like someone said, like Ola said, yes, he wasn't really the one that started the narrative. It was a narrative that was started by a predecessor who sort of inserted it in a document that was given to the British. But uh, I have a theory on that. Reason being that I know that at that time, due to illiteracy and all, mm, so there is this Ifeodaye. This is my hypothesis. So there is Ifeodaye that a lot of our narrators know that that's basically where all Yoruba people come from. And I think maybe the corruption of that Udaye to Udaye is the reason why some have inserted in that document to mean Wadai or Wudai, an empire in Sudan. This is my own theory in terms of the possible corruption of the name. But there is no validity to the claim that we Ijebu people come from Sudan, because we actually have a lot of cultural similarities with other groups in Yoruba land, including the Edo people, in terms of the name, in terms of the language, in terms of the chants we make, in terms of the food we eat. I mean, you could go on and just literally compare everything you know about Ijebu people with other people in Yoruba land, whether it's the Oyo people or the Ife people, and you see similarities there.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, Auntie Buki asked something about Ijebujasha. Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear
that's
me?
right. Yes, we
Yes.
can.
This can be a very sensitive thing. I'm always very skeptical to answer this kind of question because it opens some canker worms that are better left Okay? But when you say Ije in Yoruba, it means food. Now, there was a time they said Oduduwa was blind, and some people went to Ekpe to fetch water to bring for him to heal him. And I believe one of them was Ajiriri. I think he was the first ruler of Ijebujesha. So that's all I can say. But so let's just say Ijebujesha is a blend of Ijebu and a blend of Ijesha based on the history around that time. But Antibuki, I'm happy to tell you privately, but I wouldn't want to go into details publicly how it came about.
Okay,
Sorry,
I have
but you
what?
are stopping that
a question.
you said it's sorry, Emma Binu can clarify Baba.
Ah,
When they say Ijebu, I thought it means Ijo Ebu. Is it really Ije or Ijo? That is now kind of Yoruba they always do this Iparoje thing. So I thought that it was Iparoje when they say Ijebu, it was supposed to be Ijo Ebu, Ijesha, Ijo Esha. That is how I've always thought it is.
Can I say
All right.
something real quick
Yes, my
on the
brother Ola,
etymology?
please.
So
My brother
there
Ola,
there are
please.
different etymologies in different etymologies on where the name came from, and historians have come to the conclusion that we can only guess. There could be better guesses than some guesses, but everything is still guesses because this name came from very, very, very early times. So some of the best guesses would be those that come from the people themselves rather than what other people say. So there is one that says Ijebu is Ijebu, food of the deep, that somebody offers Ijebu people as sacrifice to the deep water, to the oceans, and that's where the name,
that
and
was
that's
the
false.
beginning,
That's
the beginning of.
exactly the beginning of it. So it's a false narrative because it's unfounded anywhere. It doesn't happen historically. There is no historical evidence for it, and the Ijebu people doesn't say that. So what the Ijebu people say, as regards the etymology of that name, is that they are rovers of the deep. If you read some of their oriki, you would see pé àwọn tó ń jẹ ní ibú tó ń jẹ lọ́sà. So jẹ ní pé kéèyàn máa
Ọmọ Ajebu Josa.
something like that. So ibú ni Yorùbá ń pè ní omi tó pọ̀ lọ ocean ni. So àwọn tó ń jẹ ibú. So tó ń àwọn rovers orí omi ńlá ni etymology tí àwọn. So if anything is reasonable nínú pé ìjẹ ibú pé àwọn tó ń jù sínú omi fún sacrifice, or ìjẹ̀bú pé àwọn tó ń rove lórí sea, èyí tó wà reasonable jù ní èyí táwọn ìjẹ̀bú sọ fún ara wọn, because that one is more rooted in the oriki, while the other one, it has no root anywhere, and it's not even coming from the Ijebu people.
Sorry, Mr. Bonka, can you please talk more about that Ijebu Jesha? I don't know why you are scared, but I don't think anybody will be afraid to take whatever you want to share with us. Thank you.
Yeah. Before Mr. Bunker goes, is it okay to read what I wanted to read earlier?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, the reference, the source is Tunde Oduobi, a journal article that he wrote, researched on in terms of the oral historical traditions of the Ijebu people. So, here it states that the objective of the traditions of Ijebu Igbo, Imushi, and Agoiwe was to establish claims of paramount headships over the three areas. The outcome of that aim was the revival of Orimolusi as the titular head of Ijebu Igbo in 1929, the Ebumawe for Agoiwe in 1931, and the Oloko for Imushi in 1949. However, while the Oloko was resuscitated as a crowned ruler, the Orumolusi and the Ebumawe were elevated to the status only in 1950 and 1948, respectively. These offices served as the foci of political integration for areas which in the pre-colonial times consisted of communities or towns that were independent of one another, but with traditional authorities having little relevance in the local administration of the post-independence era. Centripetalism is gradually losing its appeal. Indeed, most communities, however small, now desire to have their rulers elevated to crowned head status to signify local autonomy. Of the three areas in focus, this tendency is more noticeable in Ijebu-Igbo and Imushin, where the paramount headships of the Rimolusi and the Oloko are being increasingly challenged or undermined. So basically, what the researcher was basically alluding to is that in pre-colonial times, one could argue that some of these towns and community heads did not actually have that status of crowned heads. And these things actually occurred when they were now recognized as political administrative units under the British rule. And subsequently, they then made argument for being seen as kings and all that. And obviously, that would also mean having to concoct accounts that would substantiate their claim, to be seen as kings and stuff. And I think that also would explain why there are versions of history regarding Theory Molusi, whether he was a prince in Ijebu Ode or he was actually just a hunter who became the head of Oke Shokwe, and then later on became the king when other communities joined or something. I think we can even point to other, not just Yoruba and other places too, where these places did not even have a hierarchical structure or didn't even have the concept of kings or obis or whatever. But the British actually, implanted this system that allowed certain, kings or heads to emerge much later. And in the material that I was actually using for my own research, I also saw the point, which I mentioned earlier. I saw the part where it was stated that the Belebua actually crowned, gave the Orimolusi a beaded crown in 1950, and that corroborates what Professor Tunde Oduwobi has written too in his article in this journal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bonka, do you have anything to add to that?
Not at all.
Okay.
Mr. Bami, can I quickly add something to that, just to corroborate what Mr. Adilakwa said? Is
Please
that
go ahead.
okay?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So just to corroborate that, some of our kings today were not kings like from the beginning. So there was an event that happened in the Lagos region, now Lagos. It happened 118 years ago. So there is this Akarigbo of Remoland and a certain Elekbe of Ekbe. There is an Ekbe somewhere
Yep.
in the Shagamu area. So there was this conflict between these two kings. And the conflict was the Akarigbo had challenged the Elekbe while he sees the Elekbe wearing a beaded crown, the one that is typical of having come from Ife. So he challenged the Elekpe to say, wait, you have no authority to wear a beaded crown. If Ife would not have issued you a crown. And the Elekpe objected to say, no, I have that authority. So as simple as this issue might have seemed to us now, it quickly escalated into a very big issue that the British authorities could not contain. All kings all over Yoruba land could not contain this. The British authorities could not. So they had to handle this quickly before things get out of hand, because it may escalate into a civil war, or let's say a battle. So the Oni of Ife was requested to come and adjudicate on this issue and really speak on who really has the authority to wear a beaded crown. So the Oni of Ife in 1903 was going to be the first Oni of Ife to ever leave that city. So that caused another tension in Yoruba land to say, hey, maybe something evil is going to happen. This has never happened before in our history, and Oni of Ife has never left Ife. But anyways, some sacrifices were made and gods were appeased, and the Oni of Ife came down to Lagos. So in this meeting, I'm going to read from a paper that was published in that year, published 118 years ago. The title of the paper is Native Crowns. So if you go on JSTOR, one would find. So the point I'm going to make about this paper is that when the Oni of Ife came to Lagos, he gave a listing of those kings whom he knew used to be issued crown from Ife. Pé àwọn wo ni wọ́n máa ń send adé sí láti Ifẹ̀ yìí tó máa ń gba adé ńlẹ̀ Yorùbá, and he listed those kings. But then the point I'm going to make here is that he said something. He said, in the whole of the Ijebu country at the time, he said, only two kings I know of who has the right to wear crown. In other words, he's saying only two kings are actually Oba at that time, 1903. And he mentioned the Akarigbo and the Aujele. So that's what the paper said. So just to read his own words, or the words of the editor as put down in that paper, I said, the honest said to the interpreter, thank the governor thrice for me. A man should speak only what he knows to be true. And then he said, only the Akarigbo and the Aujale have the right to wear crowns in Ijebu. Even if the Akarigbo is a chicken, he is the head of his government and is entitled to wear a crown. Both the Akarigbo and the Aujale had their crowns originally from Ife. And then the paper continues like that. So the point I'm making is that so many people have crowns, but not necessarily originally, and that's to buttress Adedapo's point to say some of our kings today were community heads and bales who were elevated to the position of king, and people concoct a lot of traditional accounts just to support such an elevation and submit documents to the British authorities, because the British authorities actually based their government, of local government, and all those constituting units on the traditional accounts they get from these people. So a lot of accounts came up in that time, and it's a phenomenon not only in Yoruba land, not only in the Nigerian area. It is across Africa. It happens across Africa because we use oral history. If there had been some written accounts from thousands of years ago, most of those issues would have been like dealt with from the beginning. I just wanted to add that.
So the question I want to ask, if they are carryable, if somebody has a beaded crown, that person does not answer to another king. He's an Igbakeji Orisha. So if the Akaribo has a beaded crown, he can't be under the Awujale, literally, right?
Well, it doesn't matter if you have a bigger crown, you can still be. Okay, so we're talking about traditional history, like culture. Oh, my crown comes from Ife. However, these governments are kind of independent in some ways, and some kings become more important, more powerful, and more wealthy than others. So that way, they come to like overshadow the other king, regardless of whether we are equal culturally. So Awujale somehow managed to be, from very early times, the most wealthy in that region, the most powerful in that region. And all these other kings defer to him in some kind of ways. And he's kind of more powerful than them in those ways. So he's powerful than other kings because he has grown his empire to that state in terms of Nkuti acquire Owu, and with money comes power. He has acquired wealth. But in terms of cultural significance, only man Lenuju Akarigbulo, because somehow their crowns both come from Ife. But because of history, Oti Gajulo, just like Oyo Empire, for example. Oyo Empire came from our first empire, Ife. But in the course of history, Ife was the first empire, and Ife fell sometimes in the 1400s. And when Ife fell, other empires kicked up. Oyo sprang. So Oyo sprang to become even um, more powerful in that sense than Ife, who was the military and the spiritual and economic power of the region. Mo fi pe analogy yẹn ó capture nǹkan tí mi sọ.
Yes, sir.
Let me just add to that quickly. So there were 13 towns that formed the Shagamu Confederation, and all of them did not only came to accept the Akaribu as their ruler in just 1872, and even till today, these 13 towns actually have their own heads too. And like Ola rightly said, one of them was the Elekpe of Ekpe Shagamu that again clashed with the Akaribo. And even the clash, you would understand that it's steeped in history, because these 13 towns had to concede that, okay, you know what, now that we've formed this union, and this Akaribo called the Gimi Soje or Gimi Soje, I don't know, I'm butchering the name now, was the one who really championed that confederation and the idea that they should form one, in defense and protection from Egba incursions and the things they were facing from outsiders. So it was until this point that Akarigbo even was recognized as the Lord of Remo, and I think it was subsequently that this idea of him being a crown wearing king too came. Although I don't have the material to evidence that right now, but I know that Caribou was not always, a king that wears a crown. He was just like the lord of these 13 towns that formed that confederacy in Shagamu. But later he rose to then be seen as the Caribou of Remoland. But that does not mean that, the Awujale is still not considered to be superior. And, you would have to also understand that the Jebu kingdom was not always, especially that Remo wasn't really like a disparate settlement or kingdom, so to say, from Ijebu. They were like all the same. It was the British that carved Ijebu Remo out of Ijebu and made it, a separate entity, so to say.
Thank you so much.
Can
Do
I
we
ask
have
a
it?
question?
Do we have
I
any
have a
questions?
question.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, my question is that when the Aujale said what he said about the history of Ijebu, uh, for historical purposes, is there any account of any like respectable body that challenged that particular history that is said? The reason
Yeah.
why I'm saying this is that he's an authority, and the thing that he said made the newspaper. And in 100 years' time, people will have clippings of that newspaper, and it will become a fact. To even make the king to please correct all these things that causes deep pain and destruction in the future.
Can I go on that?
Please go ahead. Please.
All right. So, Obirin, I'm not aware of any specific writing like from maybe published in an historical journal, Historical Society of Nigeria, or History in Africa, or anyone specifically to refute the Awujale's statements after he had made it. I'm not aware. Maybe there are such writings, and I think historians are very reluctant, especially Yoruba historians, to be confrontational to our constituted authorities, our obas. However, what we do have are statements that have been made even before he was born that was refuting him in advance. So we have those statements. For example, when Mr. Adedapo was quoting that article was published in 2000, but then in that article there are reports that have been made from before many years before he was born, like almost 100 years before he was born, that refute him in advance, as if they knew he would say such things. So, for example, the 1885 or 1886 Higgins report from Ijebu, the report says that Ijebu people are from Ife, 1880 something. Come to the year 1906, the British authorities, local authorities in that region, headed by W. Stanley Hearn, October 1906, they collected the account of these people. These are the early writings. Everything else comes later. So these are the early writings. So account from Ijebu said, oh, we Ijebu people, you want to know who we are? Okay, our leaders are Ajebu, Olode, Oshin. These people came from Ife again. And then Obanta also came later from Ife and took over the throne. This is in 1906. Again, in 1919, a local historian, Epega, he repeated essentially in his publication the same account that Ajebu, Olode, Oshin, Obanta, we all came from Ife. That's about Ijebu the kingdom. Ijebu Igbo, the report that was published in 1927, report of a commission of inquiry into certain matters relating to the Orimolusi chieftaincy of Ijebu Igbo, that's the title of the report, says the same thing about the Ijebu Ode and added the Ijebu Igbo component. It all goes back to Ife. The Imushi History of Oloko, the King of Emotion, that's the name of the document, in 1933. Repeats essentially the same thing with the emotion element. It all says we came from Ife. So these are accounts long before this present Awujale was born. 1880 something, 1906, 1919, 1927, 1933. Everything says it's Ife. So it's nothing to really debunk. I think historians do not take that seriously because we're layman, we're worried. If one wants to know, one just have to flip some pages of some book, then you will see that it's not really that big of a thing to worry about. So apart from that, the first occurrence of this Wadai thing was in a document in 1937. Look at all those writings we've seen. Everybody says we come from Ife, 1850 something, 1906, 1919, 1927, 1933, Ife, 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 Ife. So in 1937, something happened. And that document that was presented to the British authority at that particular time in 1937, sometimes in December, says they came from Wadai. And then they managed to put the Ife element, just scribbled it somewhere. But historians have seen how that came to be. Johnson had published his book in 1921. And Johnson had said Yoruba people generally came from the eastern part. So the Wadai thing that came after Johnson had published is just fitting into a part of that. And Johnson was traced back to Hausa land. That's where the idea of East came from. And the Hausa land narrative goes back to the Judeo-Christian narrative of the Hamitic hypothesis. So we can see where the whole thing is coming from. Just before 1937 December, when they brought these first publications, that we've seen several writings. So what historians do is that because they know our traditions are usually oral, people repeat things. So how to know when people are making false accounts, when they're falsifying accounts? They look at the earliest writings. So for example, these people had a writing in this year. They see what it says. Oh, it says X. Another writing later, it says X. So they go, keep checking the writings year after year, it says X, X, X. And after a while, they just see Y. And then Y started prevailing. They know already what happened. Oh, this is where the falsification was made. So we see that it is in 1937 ni wọ́n kọ́kọ́ ṣe falsification Wada yẹn. Even before this time, Awujale became king. That was the document. He wasn't the king at that time. Guess what happened? Before December, kan tó ṣe falsification yẹn, that Awujale that was on the throne at that time was in Ife in March. It was in Oyo. So the British had called for what is called Conference of Yoruba Chiefs. If you Google right now and type Conference of Yoruba Chiefs 1937, Google that and click on images. When you click on images, you'll find obviously many images, but one of the images have some Yoruba kings sitting down. On your extreme left, that man you see is the Awujale at that year, 1937. While on the extreme right, you see the Alake. There are many kings apart from those people that attended that conference. So you see another evidence. Before the falsification in December, he was in Ife in March. And one of the consensions in that meeting, I think in that same image, you will see a mimeograph copy of the minutes of that meeting. All of them agreed that, we are the kings, including the king of Benin. We are the kings that our ancestors left originally from Ife. So all these things, 18 something, 1906, 1919, 1927, 1933, even in 1937 March, you will still see that Ife. We came from Ife, 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 Ife. So 1937 December, Wadai came in, and we know why. Because Johnson's book has been published and there was enough time for people to have learnt about the new narrative that was exciting everybody in Yoruba land. Oh, Middle East, Middle East. So they jumped on that and gave that to the British authority. And then in 1957, Ogunkoya published, he made it very popular again, the Wadai thing. And then 3 years later, when this Awujale came on board, he also jumped on that and also started promulgating the Wadai. So I'm not quick to blame him to say, oh no, dale. No, it's not him. It has been there a few years before he came on board, and we know why it has been there because it's not true. It's just trying to key into the Johnsonian hypothesis. But before the Johnsonian hypothesis, before they keyed in December, many, many, many writings have been written, collected from the Jebu people, which have debunked the Wadai thing in advance. And there are many other ways to debunk the Wadai narrative. And Adedapo has done a good job in debunking. The Wadai was founded in 1630 something. That was when the place called Wadai was founded. Now, in Ijebu, there is what is called the Sungbu Iridu. It's an embankment, a system of ditches and walls. So she went there. Want to take samples and want to share radiocarbon dating. Want to repeat date to see many centuries before Konto
Several
found the Wadai,
centuries.
several centuries before Wadai was founded, around 1,100 years. Ìgbà míì gan àwọn ibòmíì tó ti gba sample tó máa skew lọ sẹ́yìn dáadáa BC ló máa já sí. A lè sọ pé ìyẹn ti ń wà exaggerated, but around 1,100 years, year 1,100, wọ́n ti kọ́ erédùn yẹn. They were not created by, erédùn yẹn was not built by angels, it was built by humans. Humans tó ń gbé níbẹ̀ yẹn. So Wada itself wasn't founded until the year 16 something, so several centuries. So to say they came from Wada would be to say a kingdom was founded in the year 2000. Imagine this now, 2000 the kingdom was founded. And then people are claiming that this kingdom and the people in that kingdom migrated to settle in a place in the year 1900. It doesn't make sense because this kingdom was just founded. And these people, you can't say we migrated in the year 2000 and migrated back in time. So Ijebu has been in existence, that's the bottom line, because of the Eredo dating to many centuries before Wada itself was founded. So it has been debunked in advance in terms of writings coming from his own ancestors. Not one, not two, not three, not four, many, many, many writings like that. And we know where the Wadai thing, how and why it's like flowed into their narrative. So I wouldn't blame him too much.
Yeah, I think I should also add to that. Thank you very much for that, Ola. That was really beautiful. So I think the onus is not just on the historians, but also even the consumers of historical accounts. When someone just peddles a narrative or makes a statement, oh, Ijebu people are from Wadai or Sudan. I think the there should be an element of critical thinking when we are consuming these things. Okay, what does it mean by Wadai? In Sudan, how accurate can that be if the people in this part of Africa, in Sudan, for instance, do not even share any commonalities with the Jebu people in Yoruba land? And like Ola also pointed out, the timeline. I mean, the Jebu and all that Yoruba groups have always been in that part of the world or country or continent for several centuries. And this same kingdom that he was referring to was just literally founded in the 1600s. And so I think we shouldn't just accept everything hook, line, and sinker just because an Oba said it. Because the Oba himself might not really know what he's saying. And even that has been demonstrated here on Clubhouse. I remember about 2-3 months ago, I was actually in a room, actually as a co-moderator, and someone was invited to talk about the history of Yoruba people and all that. And this person who called himself Omagaji actually made the same statement and said, "Oh, the Jebu people are no Yoruba, or that all some Yoruba groups did not even come from Ile-Ife or Ududua. They were aliens or foreigners and all." And I had to correct him several times because he didn't have anything to back it up. He was just regurgitating what someone has said or what this person said. And it's dangerous to spread that kind of narrative. And I think, like I said, it's more it's the onus is on those who consume them to also question those statements and the makers of those statements, saying, okay, no, we can't accept it because you said it. Which proof? Where's the evidence? And I think that way, we can all debunk the wrong narratives.
Me, I can't wait for you to be crowned king. Oh, I did that for. I will definitely.
I'm against monarchy, so it's what happened.
But it is tradition, though. Me, it would be nice. It would be a great thing for Yoruba to have somebody like you become king one day. I have one last question. Please, I'm sorry, people, I'm taking your time. This question is that you have been mentioning that Ijebu is like Ijebu, and it means rovers of the sea or rovers of the deep water. So does that mean, because I've had people ask me before, how come our ancestors didn't explore other worlds? How come they didn't build big ships and everything like that? which I personally, I thought that we did not, maybe not Yoruba, but at least the Malians did that. So when you're talking about they were rovers of deep water, does that mean that they had some kind of naval, like some great naval skills at the time? Is it possible that they explored the sea? Is there any evidence of that, considering their location even today?
Well, okay. I know Allah wants to take this too. Just let me quickly answer, then you chime in.
Okay, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, there's no evidence that Africans explored, like, the Atlantic, or went beyond, their current African enclave, and, to like other continents. But in terms of Jebu people being called rovers of the sea, I think it was about their dexterity in navigating the waters around them, which make up the riverine areas, the Jebu waterside, and all that. I think that would probably be where their navigation, or their capacity to navigate the sea, ended. There's no evidence that they went beyond that area to other places, or built large ships or boats to explore other continents. Even the Malians, I know that narrative too is out there because of the Afrocentric, I won't call them scholars, pseudo scholars, who tend to claim that Africans were in America before Columbus. This is also the narrative that some Black American scholars just propagate to somehow, I believe, massage their ego, because there is no evidence that Malian sailors were in South America at any point. That is not to say they perhaps didn't have some form of skills regarding, navigating the sea or whatever, but there is no historian that would actually make that claim that Malians were in South America. The story that they normally use to buttress that point uh, was the story about Abubakar.
Kankamusa.
Sorry?
I think the man that was reigning before Mansa Musa.
Yes, Abubakar, the one before Mansa Musa. So his sudden disappearance was questioned. So people began to wonder what happened to Abubakar and all that. And it was actually Mansa Musa that said that, that Abubakar went on an expedition and all that, and to the sea, and never came back or something. And the actual truth is that Mansa Musa wasn't even meant to be the one to accede to the throne of the Mansa of Malian Empire. Even till today, there are still, questions about how he emerged as the right successor, the heir to that particular throne. And those things are also still steeped in mysteries that
No,
surround.
Abubakar, it was said that Abubakar told him to govern in his place. And when he never came back, he just continued ruling. That
No,
was what I.
no, Abubakar never said so. Abubakar never told Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, the Musa wasn't even meant to be the right successor, the heir to the throne. If you know the story of Mansa Musa, he just emerged from nowhere, and then really just, some politics must have gone down at that point, that particular time. But he was the one that actually propagated a narrative that, Abubakar sailed beyond the sea and all that, and never came back because he went on an expedition and all. But that was never, like, it was never part of the the oral history of the Malians at that time, that, this Abubakar went or whatever. People still wondered about his disappearance, and there was no historian that actually proved that Abubakar sailed beyond the sea at that time. So, Ola, you can chime in now.
So, and also, it's necessity that is the mother of invention. We in Yoruba land, we didn't really need anything out there. There was no reason to go out there. because everything we wanted, God has blessed us in our lands. And I also read that people actually were always skeptical to venture into the sea out of respect for Olokun, and Olokun is a very important deity, and they're like, don't disturb Olokun, let Olokun be. So, and the Europeans they were coming because for two reasons. They wanted to build industries at their place, and they didn't have the resources they needed. That's one. Two, the Ottoman Empire was disrupting their trade by land, especially to Asia and to India. So they needed alternative routes to avoid being attacked by the Ottomans. And that's why they started building the large ships and started rowing, trying to find new places, new trading routes. So it was necessity that made that on their part. But us, because we have everything we needed, there was no need for us to venture out there. That's the one Sonu. That would be my own view. Thank
I
Yeah,
actually agree with that.
yeah. So I'll start with where Mr. Bonka ended. So there are actually three reasons. There is one more reason why they ventured to the coast of Africa. They were searching for a certain Prester John. So some
And
years
they thought it was on your Ife.
exactly. So some years before they came, a traveler had visited the interior of Africa, an Arab traveler. His name is
Sorry, they were searching for what? Sorry.
Prester John.
Prester John.
I'll talk about it in the narrative a little bit. So a certain traveler, Ibn Battuta, I think he's the most traveled man in the ancient world or classical times. Ibn Battuta traveled to West Africa. He came to Mali, and in Mali he heard about an empire that is somewhere south of Mali, and then these people are very powerful. He's the most powerful, one of the most powerful kings in the Sudan forest, and they are so powerful that a white man dare not go there. That's why he didn't go. So these were the reports he heard from Mali, that a white man would be killed before he entered there if a white man thinks of invading. So at that time, the narrative of that time was that he himself considered himself to be white. He's an Arab. So that was how powerful the Oni of Ife. They were describing Ife at that time. So Ife ruled from around southern Togo till the Niger River. So when Ibn Battuta returned back, he's collected his account together and wrote these books and published. The books are there now, Voyages in Africa and Asia. So these books became popular in Europe. The Europeans read about it and, oh, who is this powerful king? Oh, okay. So now they're curious. Their curiosity was so much because in their own traditional narrative, almost mythical, they have this idea of a Christian king in Europe, Prester John is his name, and who suddenly disappeared. They didn't know where he went. So, but they believed somewhere he's in Africa, somewhere hiding. So this was the third reason, apart from those two reasons Mr. Bunker had mentioned, why they set. So this
And
was
also, when during the ascension to the throne of Oba Ozolwa,
oh yeah, I was gonna mention that. So when so they left Europe for these reasons, and then they came to the coast of Africa, thinking they would find Prester John somewhere in the interior. For some reasons, they have the idea that this Prester John is in the east of Africa, Owani, side Ethiopia, and they thought they could get through to Ethiopia through Benin. They thought Ethiopia was close to somewhere in the Nigerian region. So they got off their boats on the coast of Ugotun. They went in to Benin. So when they got there, it was that was the story Mr. Bunka was going to talk about. So they
yes,
found
I think
they
I lost that, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, that was during the reign of Oba Ozolwa.
right.
And during his ascension to the throne, before an Oba of Benin could be accepted as king, he has to send message to the Ogene. And people say, I mean, in past history, we know he's Oni, but Benin people are kind of being very colorful with history nowadays. We don't
No,
know
it's
why.
they're not being colorful actually. They are correct. So, Mr. Gonka, the
Yeah.
name, the archaic name, there's what we call fricative in linguistics. The archaic name of what we call Ogene today is actually Ogone. So, Omakbonkini and fricative. In fact, somewhere in Johnson's book, he used a more archaic name for the Oni. He called it Owoni. Owoni. He said the Owoni of Ife. So when I dug into that, I found that W there is a Central Yoruba fricative form for GH to light gun. If you go to Owo, they say Owo. These same people in Owo will tell you it's also called Ogo.
Oh, right.
OGHO.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Owo ni tá ń sọ yẹn, òun ni old archaic Yorùbá for Ọ̀rọ̀ ni. So Ọ̀rọ̀ ni ló máa ń pè nǹkan tá à ń pè ní Ọ̀ọ̀ni lénìí. So when they got to Benin, linguistic relationship yẹn wà. The Beninese told them that all these things we are doing, we are going to Ife to meet a king whose name is Orone. Lọ́wọ́n pè, Orene lọ́wọ́n pè
And
fún
so, what was the name of that Portuguese sailor? I think his name
um
was
Joao Afonso de Aveiro.
Alfonso Davero. I was reading his article, one of his articles recently, and he said the messenger that went to Ife and the messenger brought back like a helmet, and then he brought back something that looked like a cross.
Right.
Yeah. So when they saw the cross, they got very curious because they thought that was the Prester John, because the Prester John was a Christian.
Uh-huh.
So they felt like for a pagan king to understand the cross. But I think the cross represents cardinal points, not the cross of Jesus. That's my own. I think it represents north, south, west, and east.
Yeah,
You know.
actually, that cross, in ancient time, Christianity has been in Africa before there was a decline. So Ife had been in contact with the wider Middle East before even the Europeans came at all. So one man trade Lati Ife, Losi Nupe region, then to Mali, then to the Middle East area, man be silk law. So Ife used to produce all the silk and other clothes and all those things. So there are possibilities that there is some element of Christianity. And the other writers have cited accounts like that, where there is one hill in Ife where people went to say they want to reject Christianity and all that. There is a tradition like that. So possibly it could be some versions of Christianity that survive in this part. And Ife people actually believe that all these religions in the other parts of the world is just another manifestation of religions that emanated from this part of the world, because this is the home of everything. So the long and short of the story is that in fact, the first person that went to Benin to get that story was not even Afonso himself. It was Pacheco Pereira, local publisher. Later, Losha published account to Afonso. So, the
But
same thing.
Pacheco
Ogane,
was also Pacheco was the first Portuguese to meet with the Jebu people.
right. So, summary in Iwipe, I'm just saying that the reasons why these people came, there are many reasons. So one of the reasons is that they believed that Oni, or the kingdom of Ife that they heard of in Ibn Battuta's account, was their own Prester John, and they came into Africa for that reason, among other reasons. And unfortunately, they couldn't go to Ife because they had read in Ibn Battuta's account that you dare not enter Ife because it's so sacred and very powerful. You could be killed before you go there. And the Benin people told the Europeans that this Organese kingdom was in the place where the sun rises from. Ibiti Ojumoti Mowa, the kingdom Organewa. So the Portuguese mistook that literally for east, and then they went east. So, anyways, they wouldn't have entered Ife because of the inviolable nature of the region. So they had
So
many
they
reasons
were
why.
asking that what does he look like? And he was saying, no, nobody sees his face, so nobody knows what it looks like. The Oni.
Yeah, when Guinea people goes to Ife, then they dare not look at him. In fact, there's a curtain that separates the Oni from everybody else. So he's behind the curtain, and when they had done everything they wanted to do, he only shows them his feet be at the bottom of the curtain to show his pleasure, and he gives them those gifts to say that he agrees with whoever is going to be the new king of Benin. He supports that. So if those people goes to Ife and then they return back to Benin without those things, then the people of Benin would not accept the new king of Benin as their king, because the Hogene did not support that. So that was how powerful the Ife Empire was in those days. And I'm saying this to support that there are many reasons why they came. One of the reasons is because of the stories about Ife they had heard from Ibn Battuta's account. So as regards Ijebu people, whether they ventured into the sea that much. Yes, there is evidence. We can't say there is no evidence. And our Oriki is sufficient enough as evidence. Maybe not enough evidence to deduce other things, but at least an evidence in itself for what it says. It says that these people are rovers of the sea. We can't dispute that. This is Oriki. It goes like way back in time. So how far did they go into the sea? We have other reasons to say they did not go very far. And why? Because in those times, people believed the earth was far. Even Europeans would dare not, was flat. Even Europeans would dare not go very far into the sea because of the fear that they would fall off at the edge. So they would have plied the route across the coast. And again, another reason to support that is that Ijebu had become very rich kingdom in very early times, even before the Europeans came to trade with them. They pride themselves as the Omolowo Koyinbo to de, Oyinbo de Owo náà tún pọ̀ sí. And the reason for this is that historians have looked at why was Ijebu region, why is it such that despite being a forested area and very vast, it is very densely populated since very early times. So some of the suggestions that has been put forward by Robert Smith, for example, is that the fertility of the soil, and Professor Adebanji Akintoye also suggested that another reason is because in olden times, there are trade routes in the Yoruba country. Trade routes to Gbọ̀ngàn. So Ijebu is so lucky that it is situated at the intersection of two trade routes at the same time. So there's a trade route that runs from south to north, through Ife to Oyoli and to the Hausa land country. That's one trade route running north-south. And there's another trade route very close to the coast from west to east. So láti bí àwọn Benin Republic lẹ́nìí lọ sínú Benin yẹn. So intersection trade route méjèèjì yẹn, that's where the Ijebu country was located. So for that reason, they enjoyed trade in two ways. From traffic of trade was coming from two directions, and this attracted people to that area. Also, they controlled the trade along the coast of because they're very close to the Atlantic coast. Even before the Europeans, there used to be trade along the Atlantic coast. So one man participates. In fact, they're a very huge participant. That's what the evidences suggest. A huge participant of the trades across the coast. So all these things come to support the idea that one man ply roots Oriomi, but they wouldn't have gone far because of the fact that of the belief that the earth was flat, and they would fear that if they go too far, Jabu at the edge of the sea. And like Mr. Bunker said, they have no reason to want to go to other parts of the world if they even believe there are people in those parts of the world.
Thank you so much. That was really deep. Do we have anyone with other questions or contributions or comments?
Well, let me just say that. So I agree with the last reason, and also with the idea that
I wanted to
uh,
quickly add something about the navigation thing. Sorry, Mr. Adedapo.
all
Oh,
right.
Mr. Alu. Hello? Mr. Alu, can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's Mr. Allah.
Oh, Mr. Ola, sorry. Mr. Ola, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I
So,
can hear.
yeah, I think the Jabu people understood navigation very well because they said the palace of Jale was at the very center of the kingdom. If you measure the palace, it was located at the center of the whole of the Jabu kingdom. And it must have taken some kind of geometric calculations to have done that, some compass or something. That's why I feel like maybe they understood navigation very well.
They did. I was going to add. That was exactly what I was going to say. Well,
I
I
think
wasn't going to talk
I
about.
misunderstood. Mr. Dirk, just very clarify. When
All
I
right.
said
Okay.
navigation, I didn't mean like in terms of some geography, like they were very crude. No, I'm saying navigation on the sea. They knew how to navigate, but they wouldn't
Oh, okay.
venture very deep. And the fact that they knew how to navigate on the sea is their oriki and all the trade route thing. But the fact that the knowledge of geography in terms of the shape of the earth at that time was that it was flat. So that's enough reason for us to think, I want to if I venture too deep for fear of falling off at the edge of or fear of incurring the wrath of Olokun, amongst other reasons. But yeah, they do understand navigation in the sense of building the palace. And all Yoruba land, for example, the classical Yoruba towns, all the palaces are usually at the center of the town, not only Ijebu, Ife, and all of them, the classical ones.
Yeah. So about the depth, because So I wasn't even talking about geographical navigation. Being able to detect where to put the center, where to situate the palace or whatever. But even in Ijebu Oriki, it literally says that the rovers of the deep, offspring of Uluweri, who do not fear the depths of sea, due to their dexterity on the sea. So I would agree with the last point that it was more of not seeing the need to venture beyond the Atlantic, rather than not, rather than having the fear of the depth of the sea, because that literally was, I mean, it's central to their wiki too. Because if I wish I could say it in Ijebu, but the four lines that actually talk about the Ijebus, starting from Omo Ajebujosa, Adeigbo Bini, the rovers of the sea, offspring of Uluweri, the rovers of the deep waters as far as Igbo Bini, who do not fear the depth of sea due to the dexterity on the sea. I think, like you said, that already brings the evidence that they can actually navigate the sea. They have no fear for it. Perhaps it was just more of not seeing the reasons to go beyond it.
Or maybe you guys just need more research, or maybe there's some things that are lost.
Yes,
Right.
possibly too.
Okay, Olu, I can see you're flashing your mic. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Bami. So, Bonga and Dakwan and Ola, please, I need clarification on this issue of navigation. So, for my own understanding, it means that at that time they had maybe an ingenious form of science and technology. And if you recall, when Europeans came to to Benin, they also said that what they saw in Benin, that they saw a city that had street lights, that well paved road, and you can't do this without some advances in science and technology. So my question now is it that the people that lived at that material point in time, do they have an ingenious form of science and technology for them to be able to achieve that? Even if there is no evidence that the Ijebus went deep into the ocean, for them to even say go from the shore to maybe 50 nautical miles or 100 nautical miles, is still like there must still be some elements of navigation technology needs. So and the whole thing still boils down to some ingenious form of science and technology. So my question is that was there any evidence that those people that lived at the time had some like knowledge in science and technology? Because even the Europeans acknowledged what they saw in Benin, well, like paved road, that it was even more advanced than some European cities. So please, I want you to clarify more on that.
Okay. Usually when we are discussing this thing, I usually fear that we become very, very Afrocentric, because of how we misunderstand some of the things that these Europeans see. So when they said they see street light, it wasn't actually street light they wrote. And this comes from Alfred Dayper's account. So Alfred Dayper is someone who, throughout his life, he wasn't, first of all, an eyewitness to those things. He never left the Netherlands throughout from his birth to his death. So where did he get this from? People had visited Benin and they come back with stories and all, and then he gathered some of these stories and wrote it. But then he didn't write Street Light, for example. What he had was fitila. Gbogbo ilẹ̀ ni, it's not about Benin, it's everywhere. Fìtílà tó máa ń tan, wọ́n máa wá gbé sórí igi kan so that tó bá ń ṣe event kan ní alẹ́, wọ́n máa fi ríran. That was the context, to put it in the proper context, so we don't think it to mean something else. So, and it's everywhere. It's in Oyo Ile ni, gbogbo ẹ̀ ni, wọ́n ní bẹ́ẹ̀. Yeah, paving, yes, on one is system paving. Wọ́n ti excavate ẹ̀ ní Ifẹ̀, wọ́n ti excavate ẹ̀ ní Benin, wọ́n ti excavate ẹ̀ in different parts of Yorùbá land. Wọ́n máa ń pè wọ́n ní potsherd pavement. And some, Ifẹ̀ náà wọ́n kan tó ń pè ní quartz pavement. So ẹ bá Google ẹ máa rí àwọn kíní yẹn, broad roads and all those things. Yeah, wọ́n kan yẹn neat. I think we look at these people, the European countries ní ayé ìgbà yẹn, we're talking about 1500s, 1600s, 1400s. So maybe we have a very high estimation of Europe at that time. Kò Europe ò ń ṣe nǹkan bàbàrà ńgbà yẹn náà rẹpẹtẹ bẹ́ẹ̀. but we were like decent people. Let me just put it like that. But let's not push it to the extreme of street light, street light. They actually didn't write it like that. So yeah, our habitations were very clean, environment were
But
neat.
sorry, Ola, Walter Rodney wrote. If I actually read it from Walter Rodney's book.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Walter Rudney is not. Is a writer in the 21st century, ní century whatever. I'm talking about gbogbo nǹkan tí Walter Rudney nǹkan yẹn, boldly original source and tó fojú rí báyìí lèmi ń sọ. So if Walter Rudney is writing, he's analyzing something that someone who saw it had written. Just get ìyàtọ̀ nsìn. So Walter Rudney is writing as an historian that is analyzing the first-hand material, the eyewitness account. But we are talking about the eyewitness account now. And tó fojú rí kí ló rí. So nǹkan tó rí ni wípé kò rí street light in the sense of electricity and a pole that is always there at night throughout ní gbogbo street. No. I might exaggerate a bit, and I can understand why we do some of those things. But me, I'm just like, I just want to like make people say, yeah, we are great people. We don't have to exaggerate to be great. We are great despite that thing that we did. One in Europe. So let's just say that thing that we did. Kí ni nǹkan náà ni fìtílà ni wọ́n dẹ̀ máa gbé sórí pole tó bá ń ṣe event. That's what it is.
Kìnìún dẹ̀ fi ń fire epo pupa.
Exactly. So kì í ṣe electricity bẹ́ẹ̀. So I know afro téèyàn bá ṣọ́ra àwọn kìíní yẹn máa ń lead sí afrocentrism tó yẹ pé ó máa wà irrational. Èèyàn máa sọ nǹkan tí ò bá context history lọ máa wà kí ló máa ń pè nǹkan yẹn ká situate nǹkan sínú wrong time of history. Mr.
But
Adedapo.
sorry, Ola, but ṣé àwọn Ifẹ̀ ṣé wọ́n did they construct roads?
Of course wọ́n pave
Okay.
wọ́n ṣe ní Benin náà kò ń ṣe ní context tí kọ́tà ń pè ní road ń pé kóòtà tó fi ń ṣe nísìn. Ẹ bá google ẹ̀ Porsche pavement mo lè PTR àwọn kankan fún yín tẹ́ máa rí example. Wọ́n máa ṣe lọ fún street wípé king ò gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ ilẹ̀ ńlẹ̀ àbí ńgbà òjò tí ilẹ̀ bá ń yọ̀. So wọ́n máa fi àwọn kankan pave lọ. Wọ́n máa ń lo pot shed, wọ́n
But
máa ń
it
lo
was like
cut.
they were using cement or something.
No, kì í ṣe cement, kì í ṣe kóòtà. Àwọn nǹkan yẹn lèmi sọ pé mò ń contextualize ẹ̀ sìn. So when people say pave, we are ẹni tó ń sọ lè rí original source yẹn but ó máa fẹ́ make it look like pé nǹkan tá à ń lò fi pave ń sìn náà no. But kókó ibẹ̀ ni wípé àwọn kan nílùú tá a fi pé wà advance lane wọn rórí débi nǹkan fẹ́ pave street wọn. Àwa dẹ̀ ṣe nígbà yẹn. So that's enough, we are great. So a ní láti sọ pé nǹkan tó fi ń pave léni ló ń lò fi pave ńgbà yẹn. A ní láti sọ pé electricity ló lò ńgbà yẹn. No, tó bá ń ṣe event ọkàn máa fi pupa sí kíní ẹ̀ fìtílà wọ́n dẹ̀ máa tàn káàkiri wọ́n dẹ̀ máa gbé sórí igi kan. So ó dẹ̀ máa lọ rẹ̀rẹ̀ ó dẹ̀ máa mọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo bẹ́ẹ̀. You wouldn't expect them to do events in the dark. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ní Ọ̀yọ́lé wọ́n ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ káàkiri but that we could do that àwọn ò tiẹ̀ lè ní irun kan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn gan street wọ́n máa ń rùn ó máa rùn and bíbá ẹ máa rí walls tó máa polish tó máa dán ní Benin ẹ máa rí walls tó ń polish nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tó ń dán shine. So ẹ máa rán àwọn ilé tó ń construct pé wọ́n máa wò wọ́n lé yẹn pé but why are these people so tán fi yàtọ̀ báyìí. Tẹ́ bá rí plan àwọn ilé mi tán máa ṣe aerial drawing fún yẹn máa ní pé wow. So those are the kind of things we don't have to say duplex dan ló lé ní lọ́kọ́ nígbà yẹn náà no but for that time nǹkan yẹn ṣò pé àwọn èèyàn yìí wọ́n yàtọ̀ respect because àwọn òyìnbó yẹn gan fúnra rẹ̀ ó ń yà wọn lẹ́nu wọn rírọ̀ ẹ̀rí ṣe get tí mo ṣe contextualize ẹ̀ yẹn so that's
Yeah.
what it is kì í ṣe
Yeah, I see.
electricity kì í ṣe
Yeah.
quota kì í ṣe àwọn nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. Do we have anyone else with questions and comments and contributions? Ayilara, please go ahead.
Honestly speaking, I am just I'm just amazed with the knowledge these guys are just dishing out, and I'm wondering, please, what has gotten over the Southwest leaders that they allowed history to be taken out of educational curriculum, and nobody said anything. I'm just worried. I won't put the blame on those that came to colonize us. If they came to colonize us, how many years back? These are over 100 years. Are we not wise enough to know that if we allow these things to slip on like this? I don't know. You guys are really great. Mr. Bonka, that did that for others. Please, I'm begging you. When are you going to do for a Falaye, my hometown? And I want to ask, these things that you guys are talking, where did they get that the Jebus are from Israel? Where did they gather their own history? God have mercy. You guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
my
sir.
brother Ilara. Thank you so much. Okay, so the direct question to Bonka, Adidakbo, Ola, and Are. When are you guys going to F1 Alaye in Ekiti State? That was the question.
Before I answer that question, let me also quickly add that the Ijebu people were also the first to actually use currency, and they were also renowned to be the ones that first came in contact with education and promoted civilization in the 14th century. Owo Ijebu, called Ijebu money, was actually used for international trade, and it spearheaded trade and commerce development in Nigeria. It was also invented by the Ijebu people. I just felt I needed to put that out there.
You
Eshigo.
just thought you needed to brag. Eh? Yeah,
Any,
continue. There's
anyway,
God.
that's okay.
Sorry, can I ask a question, please?
Please go ahead, my brother.
Yes. I think when we discuss Yoruba history, there's a particular ethnic group or race that always coming into the discussion, and it came in again today, and that's the Bini people. When I don't know, since I joined this room, I don't think I've heard a discussion about the Yoruba, the relationship between the Yoruba and the Bini people. When will such discussion hold, or if it has held, can it be repeated? Thank you.
Okay.
I'm really interested in that one. That's my
That's going to be explosive.
right. But
What
let
was
me.
the question? Sorry, I missed it. Please just summarize fast.
So when is the discussion going to be held on the relationship between Yoruba and Benin? Because Benin keeps coming up when we discuss
Okay.
sometimes. Yeah.
Mr.
So,
Fami, you
yes.
can make that the next topic because
Yes.
I'm happy to debunk a lot of their lies.
Right.
Mr.
Okay.
Agboka, be ready to fight too, because they will fight you.
Okay.
Because
They
they
are
don't want to
very
hear the truth,
militant people.
which is that the
So
Benin are actually a subgroup of Yoruba people. But I know people who have fought me on that.
no. I did that, but that's mistaken. They are not a subgroup. So that's one Kotomafin
No,
Muwa
they are actually. They
They
were a
are a
certain.
subgroup, but they rose
I
So
in
I
let
know
me
you
prominence.
guys
explain.
will fight
Let
me.
me explain this. Let me
I
explain
know.
this the way I know. When Oromiyan was going to Benin, he
Mm.
took an entourage of Benin people of people from Ife with him. Just like when people
Bunker,
leave
wait.
Ife.
Bunker, wait.
Yes.
Bunker, wait. Bunker, wait. Today is Ijebu. We are going to schedule
Okay. All
a
right.
day for Benin, and we're going to make that happen really quick. Uh, Hopefully next week, sometimes. I'm going to talk to Ola. I'm going to talk to Bonka, Adidakpo, and Are, and we're
Yeah.
going to set something up, and we're going to make it work. Sometimes next week. Fingers crossed, but let's be hopeful.
Welcome, Murayo. How are you?
Uh,
I'm
um,
good. Hi.
I'm
Great.
sorry, Bami. I think for us to have balanced view, I don't know if you can get maybe people from that area that can also bring their own perspective to the house. Sorry.
No. I would say
You
no.
want to start war?
I would say no. It's gonna be. I've engaged these people. They are not. They don't joke. They wouldn't even discuss. It's fight.
Okay,
I've engaged everyone. Yeah.
okay. Let's talk behind the scenes and see what we can cook up. All
I
right.
have a
Do we have any
question
other?
Mr.
whenever.
Barry,
Okay,
Hello,
everybody,
hello,
Mr. Bami,
everybody, hold
one
on,
mic.
hold on. Let's let Mariah go, and then we continue,
Just
please.
wait, wait, Bunker. Just wait. Please. We don't even know if she wants to go or not. So
She just
I
let's.
said she has a
requested, yeah.
question.
All right. Okay. Morayo is going to go. I can see Tokwe as well. Who else wants to go? Okay. We let Morayo go first, then Tokwe.
Eshepupo, sorry, I've been in and out of the room. I turned on the notification because Omo Ijebu ni mi. My father is Ijebu, my mother is Ekiti, and I really wanted to absorb it, but because of work and sleep schedule, I just could not. The major reason being gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú tí well, I don't even know if we speak Ìjẹ̀bú tí mo jẹ́, I really want to pass it down to my children, but I don't even know the very basics of it. Like you said, these things are not taught in schools. Certainly not here in America, and of course, it wasn't taught in Nigeria. And I'm thinking, is there even a possibility that I will be able to, first of all, find a place where I can actually learn these things, not just scattered everywhere. And then perhaps we can even start discussing about how to pass it down to our children in palatable ways. But first, is this history, is it available anywhere online? You know.
All right, thank you so much. Just for your information, today's session was actually recorded, so we might have something to share on our website and our YouTube page, and also other social media platforms. But it's work in progress. We'll keep you posted on that.
Please do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Talkbay, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to send a reminder that we were going to discuss about Ijebu-Jesha, as it relates to their history. So that we don't forget that. Because I'm from Ijesha, so I'm interested in that history as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, do we have anyone else? Okay, my brother Adidapo, do you want to greet our people? And let's start bidding our farewells.
Yes, it's been interesting, and thank you so much for organizing this. I've really enjoyed it. In fact, I had an event I had to cancel because I was really enthralled and I just couldn't, move away from the phone. So it's been really, really nice. I think we should do this more because this is actually what it means to raise the consciousness of every Yoruba person, whether you are Ijebu, Ibadan, Yoruba, anywhere you're from in Yoruba nation. We need to know our history. And I know that this particular club is committed to ensuring that that consciousness is raised through history and other forms. So thank you so much, Mr. Bami. Thank you so much, Ola, Bonka, Obiri, Are, everybody in the room. It's been lovely to be part of this, and I look forward to engaging everybody again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my brother. My brother Ola, please go ahead.
Yeah, so to close out, I would just like do a summary and a culmination of what we've done so far. So far we've seen that there's a popular narrative that the Jebu people are from Wadai, and we've traced how where that narrative came from, and we've seen how that narrative has been debunked even before it came to be born. We've seen that the Ijebu people are Yoruba people true and true, and they came from Ile-Ife. The monarchy came from there, and they came originally. The people came from the Nigerian region, the Niger Benue confluence, where all Yorubas evolved from. Everybody settled at the same time. So Yorubas, Ijebus are not from Wadai because there is no evidence to support that, and in fact there are many overwhelming evidence to debunk that. We've seen that the Ijebu people's own testimony of themselves from the beginning, from the 1850s through the 1937 to the 1937, consistently and repeatedly says that we are from Ife, 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 Ife. It wasn't until December 1937 before a new narrative was born, and we know where this narrative came from and why it came from, and we know there are many, many evidences that debunks that. So I just want to recap. Ijebus are Yoruba true and true, they are not from Wadai.
Thank you so much, my brother. My brother Bonka, please go ahead.
Oh, well, it's always nice when I'm also learning because sometimes it feels like I do most of the talking. And so I'm so excited that Mr. Adidapo and Mr. Ola was around today. And I learned so much from both of you. And I'm happy to be a student. I love to be more of a student than I wouldn't say teacher because I don't more of a listener than a talker, and so it was fun to have this kind of engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my brother. Obìnrin Àkànṣe. Obìnrin Àkànṣe is probably sleeping. Are is Are back? Are is probably sleeping as well. So we just want to greet everyone and thank you for being part of this program today. Today we learned so much as it has been recapped about the Ijebu ancestry and the wrong narratives that are being pushed. And those narratives have been debunked for the most part. I can see Olu still flashing as we're trying to go. Olu, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you for this opportunity. So just a quick one. It just came to my head now. Can we like? I know it's not easy because this thing is not because I really learned a lot from the professors in the house. But is it possible for us to dedicate like maybe Fridays for topics like this? Maybe we can have it like to like have it in a
That would
more
be
structured way.
so nice.
Yeah, maybe it's like because we started with Ijebu today. Perhaps maybe next Friday could be maybe Egba or something. At least let it go around the other Yoruba tribes. I don't know, just my thought. I'm just asking if that's going to be possible.
All right, there is nothing that's not possible. But no, thank you so much for that. Uh, we just want to thank everyone that has been part of this. We appreciate your time. Please make it a date again when we come around with another special program. If you are not following the room yet, please kindly follow the room by clicking the greenhouse icon, and so you can get notifications whenever we come around. Before we leave today, we'd like to play Yoruba national anthem. Thank you. Thank you so much. Closing the room in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.